Hey everyone, I'm Matt.
I'm Mark.
Welcome back to episode 2 of the Business of Leadership. Today's episode, we're going to talk about our co-host, Mark McPyke.
One and only.
We're going to, I got some questions here, going to ask him, walk through his journey, through his leadership career and whatnot, and what led him to get to where he is today. So, I want to start something here for every guest that we have come on. I want to start out with, if you could describe yourself or your bio.
Oof.
I know I'm throwing you for a loop. I didn't
Alright,
give you
alright.
this one.
All right.
I want you to give me your bio in 2 to 3 sentences of who you are and the type of leader you think you are.
Oh man, you put me on the spot here.
I know.
Okay, all right. For me, what type of person and leader am I? For me, I'm going to start with person. For me, definitely approachable, fun. How do I even say this? It's hard to talk about yourself. It really is.
That's the point.
It really is hard. Fun, approachable, definitely willing to give anything a go. Sometimes can be a little shoot from the hip. Sometimes also can portray that a little bit of an angry face sometimes. Generally it's not the case, but inside I would say I'm pretty soft and easygoing. As a manager though, definitely being fair. You know, being fair across the board is key in what we do today. And it's really the only way you can develop. As long as you have a fair shot at what you do at work, regardless if you're a high profile performer or even just steady Eddie trying to do your job every day, it doesn't really matter. Everybody's in it to win it. So for me, it's like, that's kind of how I put it. It's definitely a hard question, man. Kind of rambling there, but it's definitely a tough one.
Yeah, I threw you for a loop. I know
Yeah,
I didn't give you a heads up on
No,
that
it's a tough one.
This is a question that always gets me, I guess. When you were a kid, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Ooh, I actually wanted to be a sports teacher.
Sports teacher?
A sports teacher. So all the way through high school, I actually did some schooling for it. So I did a sport and rec is what it was actually called in Australia at the time, and I learned how to deal with kids and physical education and the entrance into teaching. And that's really what I want to do, was be a teacher and actually a masseuse.
A masseuse.
Yeah.
Question, run-on question, I guess. Backing off that last one, do you think in the courses that you took to get you to where you wanted to be as a sports teacher, do you think you've learned any fundamentals during that time frame that help you today as a leader?
As in what I do now, professional?
Yeah. Approach on people.
Definitely people, because being a teacher, you're involved with those people that you're teaching, those classmates. So really, I would say being able to be confident talking in front of a group or a crowd, because when you've got a bunch of kids in front of you, they're running rampant, and you've got to engage and get the attention of them,
Right.
and try not to lose it while you're trying to portray the message. So that's probably one of the best skills I probably got out of it.
That's good.
Yeah.
Walk me through your career.
So now,
Well, actually,
my current career.
No,
Okay.
I should back it up here. Do you have any... This is another interesting question I find. Do you have any post-secondary education, like outside
No.
of high school?
No,
Nothing.
and I'll be straight up for all the fans out there too. I did do I wasn't the best at school. I was one of those steady Eddies. Didn't pull the best grades in maths. Was absolutely terrible at English at the time. I was more into sports and sailing and learning about marine and biology. Like, that was what I took interest in. So when I left school, not being very good at it, didn't really give me much of a chance to set myself up for secondary school.
Right.
So that's kind of how that kind of played out.
That's something I've noticed too with like a lot of different people that I've come across in my life. I've noticed they either didn't go to post-secondary school or they did, and it was nothing to do with their current field.
Yeah, not at all.
it was just more or less something for them to take, because whether they felt the pressure from society or whether it was from high school teachers or whatever, they just chose something that they didn't feel they gravitated towards. And
I really feel, you know, it's whatever you do in this day and age. Just getting in and trying something completely different that I was thrown into.
Right.
And I don't know if you want to move on to another segment yet, but
No.
you know, that kind of led into me picking up a trade. You know, I didn't have that secondary funding to kind of go and pursue a university degree or something a little bit more high end. So it drove me into that blue collar workforce and put me in that apprenticeship, doing tiling, floor and walls, and doing bathrooms and stuff. So I learned a lot by doing it on the job. I learned my maths that I didn't learn at school because I had no choice to. I learned how to measure. I learned how to make the angles right, or, you know, use the tape measure correctly, or whatever it was, the task I was doing. They're the skills I picked up definitely after I kind of finished up school.
That's interesting.
Definitely gained a lot more from the workforce than I did from school, me personally.
Interesting. What do you do today?
Like my actual profession.
Yeah,
now?
what's your profession?
So manager, quite a large entity of a company that I work for. I've been with that company 10 years now. It's been a long grind. Did start at the bottom of that company, but now I manage a refurbishment entity. So essentially, working with contractors, sales groups, operations teams, just to keep the wheel turning and whatever the business has thrown at us, to try and deliver a better product to the customer base.
What would you say, I guess, if you could give me an estimate on the biggest team you kind of led or managed, quote unquote? I don't like to use that word, but what is the biggest team that you've had to date?
Definitely here in Canada. Lucky and fortunate enough that the company could shift me around a little bit. Saw a lot of different sites and entities as I grew up through this business. Definitely here in the Edmonton site. At one point there it was like 25 people. I know to a lot of people it probably doesn't sound like a lot, but to me, coming from Australia managing 5 to managing 25 overnight, it was an absolute huge step up. And I completely had to change the way I acted, the way I mentored the staff, to give everybody that fair go again. It's very easy when you have a small team to really focus on those individuals, and give them what they need. When you've got that broader team, being spread very thin was the word I'm going to say here, like the phrase. That was a tough one to really understand. But once I understood it, like, it came pretty easy.
So I guess when you first came over, you talk about that big team jump from 5 to about 25. What struggles did you have? Obviously, you came from Oz, you weren't new to the company, but I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, you were at this site working before, left. It was just a temporary basis for support, but then you came back in a permanent capacity at this site. So what struggles did you go through? Or experience?
When coming to Canada, and let's take out work for a second here. Let's look at the cultural aspect. Yes, I come from a country, quite a fortunate country, to have the best of everything we can, to also come from a Commonwealth country just like Canada, and we do share a lot of crossover as two countries. But I tell you, the cultural difference coming to Canada was tough for me, especially even though I speak English, even the way I pronounce things, or the way I would say phrases or terms would be very confusing for the people I'm talking to.
For sure.
Even slightly the accent at some times would be difficult.
Trust me, going through the drive-through with this guy is a struggle.
It's a mission. So that was probably the cultural difference. Obviously, you've got all the new things, like the things that go with the country, you know, adapting to different rules and legislations and all the things of being what a Canadian resident is. And that's something that I'm working on, by the way. You know, and it's a long, lengthy process. And I would say it's probably the hardest thing, that the cultural difference. That was probably the biggest transition for me.
How about the driving? Just kidding.
Oh, the driving.
No, I mean, I guess from a business perspective or a leadership perspective, what were the challenges that you faced? Because you would have been essentially faced with a brand new team, and I've
Yeah.
experienced that too, and I'm
Definitely.
sure we'll dive into that with other guests on this podcast. But there are certain challenges that you're faced with when you inherit a team, or you're given a team, or you receive a team and that team's already established and you're the new kid on the block, man.
Yeah, and you know, to summarize it the best you have there, new kid on the block is the term. You know, I was a brand new employee that these guys didn't know at all. They didn't know my background. They didn't know who I was. They didn't know how long I've been with the company, what kind of personality I was. You know, and there's always that threat that you have an outsider coming in, taking someone local's job, or that, you know, why didn't someone get promoted in the company that was on site there into that position? So, you know, there's a lot of that. The start of it was to build the trust of the people. And for me, that was being with the people at the time that were on the team, and just giving them the time of day the best I could. Either if it was advice with some of the endeavors that I'd had over my time, if it was reassurance that I wasn't there to take anyone's job or make them feel unwanted, but then also there was an old culture, and we talk about culture in our day-to-day lives a lot these days, and trying to change a little bit of the culture, because the company that I came from, even though we were the same, the culture was somewhat similar but a little different, you know, and the terminology was same but different. Like, it was getting and crossing those bridges. You know, I definitely would say getting the trust was the key. Once I had the trust, you know, then I could really sit with them, ride with them at the end of the day, and slowly just start to show them that I'm not a threat. We're here as one kind of big picture, and everybody is to get a piece of the pie, and we just grow as a team.
That's good.
Yeah.
So, Mark, when did you first knew that you wanted to be a manager or a people leader?
Man, I'm gonna be straight up here. I don't think I ever wanted to be a manager or people leader. You know, I circle back to the teacher, sure, if you want to put it like that. But I had real no ambition to kind of slip into it. I think how I slipped into this role and how I've become a people leader is by working with the people and seeing what they go through on the day-to-day, and being able to be put into a position where I've learnt from all the other individuals growing up through the company, and being able to take portions of what I didn't see fair, or we didn't see eye to eye as a group, or things that we can do better to kind of better the people. So for me, really, it was natural progression, and I really slipped into it, and I love it. Like, I think it's such a rewarding profession. Such a rewarding profession when you get it right, or the people feel like it's right.
Yep.
But yeah, to your question, yeah, I don't think I ever really wanted it, but I slipped into it and I really enjoy it.
That's good, man.
Yep.
We talked about your struggles. Do you find yourself dealing with any struggles today? Like, obviously, how long have you been in Canada now?
3 years now.
Yeah, so you've been on this site for 3+ years now. So aside from being the new kid on the block, what would you consider to be, like, I don't want to say your day-to-day struggles, but maybe one of the major struggles that you either yourself struggle with or you've witnessed a struggle with?
Another one. That's a tough one again. You know, it's always tough to talk about your struggles or weaknesses as a person. Struggles, let me think here. I've always swayed, and I get this a lot when we, have you ever done those courses where it's like a personality trait, and, you know, they kind of ask you some questions, or self-evaluation, what you think of yourself, or what your strengths and weaknesses are. Seems to be a common trend with me over the years. is attention span. For me, that's probably my biggest struggle. If I'm invested and I'm interested in it, I find that I give 100%. If I'm not so invested in it, I'll tend to kind of put on the back burner a little bit, focus on something else that I enjoy or I really want to do. And sometimes that's not always the best approach, because you end up working around in just circles. You never really complete the task that you originally shot out to do. So that would probably be my biggest struggle when it comes to my career, definitely.
I don't think you're alone in that either, that attention span struggle. I know I personally also go through that sort of thing, and like from what I've gathered from things I've listened to or people I've talked to, it's not just it's becoming more and more of a generational thing, to be honest with you. It's got a lot to do with how, without getting too in depth, it's like how we live our lives today versus how we did 20, 30 years ago.
And let's be real, today's life's fast.
Oh yeah.
You know, everything's going so quick. Like, look at the new iPhone. You know, from iPhone to iPhone, which is every year generally, you never really know what the upgrades are. It's just another one that they're handing out, right? So, the world is going quick, and those things can be lost in the mix very fast.
100%. I want to know what motivates Mark McPyke. What gets you going every day? Why do you keep doing what
money?
you
No.
do?
No, definitely not the money. I think really, I've always liked a sense of adventure. And again, when I say adventure, yes, I do love the holidays. But adventures can be different things, and some of those are projects that are happening at work, or the people that you work with, or along those lines. You know, what really motivates me at the start of the day, I get out of bed and I always thank God that I'm healthy, that I'm here, I have a job, I have a roof over my head. Doesn't matter what I get paid, or really what I do. I'm thankful for what I get. I know the journey that I've been on to achieve it. So I'm thankful that I've been able to really stick out the grind. You know, it can be tough to stick out that grind sometimes. And it's really difficult sometimes. You know, you're in a job and you might be stuck between a rock and a hard place, and it's very easy to just press the button and call it quits. And I think to be proud of myself, to say, hey, I'm still grinding every day. I'm still kind of stepping out of my comfort zone when I need to,
Right.
And learning with everybody else. That would be my reasoning.
It's good, man.
Yeah, I think it's good. But I tell you, I didn't always have that mindset, and it took a lot of self work to get to that mindset. It took a lot of grinding. It took a lot of time. Took a lot of extra hours at work. You know, it did take a little bit on my home life balance, but the hard work you put in, you reap the benefit, right?
Yeah, 100%.
In whatever aspect or industry you do, it's always the case. Definitely.
Would you consider yourself to be a resilient person?
What do you think?
This
Throw it at me. What do you think?
This isn't about me.
Yeah,
I'll give
I
you
knew
my,
you wouldn't. I knew you wouldn't give it to me.
There's a reason for all this.
Oh man, resilient person. Do I think? Depends on the day.
In general,
yeah, I would say I am. Yeah,
I would say you are too.
yeah, I would say I'm pretty resilient. Trying to fluff it up a little bit there for the camera, but no, definitely resilient for sure.
Do you think an attribute to being a leader or a high-performing individual, do you think you need to be resilient?
No. Man,
Why?
maybe I jumped at that a little too quick. Yeah, that's my shooting from the hip coming a little bit there. I'll be honest, man. I don't really know. That's a tough one.
So I'll give you my input
Yeah,
and
give
my
me-
feedback. Like, I
Yeah.
think you do because, and the reason why I say that or I feel that is because in a leadership role, in a supervisor role, manager role, whatever you want to take it, whether it's a high performing individual, whatever the case, we're constantly dealing with changes, struggles every day, every hour, every week, every month, every job. And I think you have to be resilient for the team or for the end goal. If you're a marathon runner, if you get injured, you're just going to try harder. That's the resilience that I think you need to be a champion, to be a top tier leader.
So I'm going to throw a curveball here, and I'm just shooting it here. Let's say you've been fortunate enough to be handed a lot of that on, up front, and you've not had to do the grind. You've had to push it, and you've had to, get those early starts and those late stays. Like, what if you've been fortunate enough to have a family business and step into the role?
I think you could still be resilient in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good curveball.
It's tough, eh?
Yeah.
It's really tough to talk about it.
But I don't necessarily think that. I'm sure that person would probably succeed to a degree, but I don't know if they would really have the complete buy-in of what a leader should in a real environment. I mean, the problems that you deal with as a leader or a manager, and I mean, they paint a brush to who you are, man. It's like every problem you're faced with, or every issue or every struggle, it becomes a part of who you are and builds you that much as a leader or a high performing individual. And I think in order to succeed and be what I would consider a top tier leader or a top tier performer, I think you have to be resilient. You have to be able to roll with the punches and learn from the punches and eventually duck out and dodge those 1-2 punch.
I'm definitely interested to see that on, as this podcast evolves and that question come up again. Really, and maybe we can put some snippets together as we go along, and we put everybody's answers together, like a little, and just to see what people's take is on it. Like, it's actually a real good question. I've never actually thought about that before.
I mean, yeah. There's a lot of sayings about like getting knocked down and getting back up, and like it just makes you who you are, and those experiences help build you, in my opinion. I want to know about one of the hardest decisions you ever had to make at work, or work related, leader related.
Yeah, so
or could be in your previous career, or I know you got a bit of a football background there too. So if there's ever been a decision that you had to make, what was it? How was it so hard? What the outcome was? Walk me through it. Walk the guests, the fans through it.
For the fans out there, my life story here. Oh, it's like the days of our lives here. Okay, so hardest decision career-wise, or along those lines. I'm gonna keep it to my current career, and I'm gonna kind of heighten that transition from Australia to Canada. At the time of my life, single guy. Had a house, car, furniture, the whole lot. I lived my whole life in Australia and I had a happy life there. Being able to get this opportunity to move to Canada to pursue and extend my career was definitely a tough decision because I knew what was involved. To absolutely sell up everything that I had completely, the cars, the house, the furniture, and move across the world with 3 suitcases and essentially start again, was probably the most hardest decision. To leave my family, my friends, to pursue a career that did I think was going to work 100%. Did I know it was going to work? No. And I had to take a gamble there. It was a 50-50 for me.
Yeah, it would be.
And I'm glad I did. It really paid off in the end, but it definitely was a stressful time, and it weighed heavy on me for quite some time. It wasn't like I moved and everything was great. It took me nearly 2 years to rebuild my life back together, as well as focusing on a career and building those relationships and building those leadership skills and taking on a little bit more at work and having a team of 25 at the time. And it was a big struggle at the time.
Yeah.
But again, like we were saying about perseverance and really staying true to the goal, I was able to focus and continue to really drive that home, and I feel like I'm pretty successful these days. I'm happy with where I'm at.
That's good.
I really am.
I'm happy where you're at.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Much love.
So just rolling off the last statement and kind of your whole move to Canada.
Mm-hmm.
Did it stress you out?
Yeah.
Like heaps? Like I want to know, I guess, like what.
Not until I'd got not until it was real.
Yeah.
Getting the job off was great, awesome, sweet. That was sweet. Telling my boss that I was changing branches, easy as, no problem. It wasn't until like 2 weeks before the move, and everything started shifting, and the house was getting empty, and then I knew I was literally giving away my life. So. Yes, it was, for sure.
And the whole moving to Canada, new team, you find that pretty, like...
Oh, that was...
I don't know about stressful, but, like, did you ever experience any anxiety about going into work?
Oh, yeah. I think any individual would, regardless if you say it or not. I think coming into a new environment, you're going to have some level of anxiousness or some kind of stress, regardless if you know the job, the ins and outs. For those people out there that don't have that, kudos to you. I wish I had that. But yeah, definitely had a bit of stress there, and I find that's what helped. Having that anxiety helped me deliver what I needed to at the time, though. Yeah, that was not too bad.
Walk me through the hardest day of your career.
Oh, how's that career?
Like, there has to be one day that stands out above the rest.
I probably have two.
Let's hear them.
My first one would be the transition to Canada. Nobody on my team back in Oz knew that I was going for it. They had a few inklings that I would try maybe or whatnot, but to actually go to work and tell these people that I'd worked with for the last 8 years at the time that I was no longer going to be there with them, and some of those people had got me through some pretty tough times in my personal life too. So to tell them that we'd be no longer standing side by side and delivering the best business we could was tough. But then on the flip, coming to Canada, I made some really good bonds with some staff that I worked with. They were great individuals. One guy in particular that had been there for a long time, and we had to make some adjustments, and it was just a really tough decision. And it was, no one was let go or anything. It was his decision to move on to a different division,
Right.
And change companies. And we were good friends. And to have some high level conversations on direction and leadership at the time, and what he thought was best for him. We had to respect it. So to see a good friend and a good individual leave was pretty tough at the time. And they were my leaning post, my right hand at the time.
Yeah.
It being in Canada, had nobody else.
Right.
It was tough.
That'd be a struggle for sure.
Oh yeah. Actually, I got one more. Let me lay one more on you here.
Yeah.
I'm on a roll. Okay. Also, this is my journey here about something that happened with the position that I'd slipped in when coming to Canada. I thought I was delivering a great product with what I was delivering to the team, and there was a few things I was missing. A few link in the chains that with that coming from a smaller site to a large one. That I hadn't really adjusted to yet, and it was really good to get with my bosses at the time. They were pretty upfront and fair about it, and it was a very good sitting down and more or less, let's not overpromise and underdeliver, which I was doing a little bit at the time. A lot of new stuff going on, like we talk about how fast a year can go. Things were going by so quick. I was still trying to get a place to live. I was still trying to settle into my house and get my personal life on track. And there was things that I wasn't really delivering, and having those conversations really drove me to rise up. And kudos to that management group at the time to give me that feedback and direction, because it could have been easy to say, well, look, let's not go there. Let's just see how it goes, and no one gets a win there. The team suffers, I suffer, and it was a tough turning point in my career, that I would say.
Yeah, I think sometimes it's really tough. You get tunnel vision, right? And I've experienced this, and I'm sure a lot of the viewers have, and the guests that we talk about have. You're looking down the tunnel. All you're seeing is the finish line, and you're not really thinking about 2 steps ago and how that affected everything else, or maybe it didn't affect everything else like you had thought it would, or you think it did. Your perception is different because you're directly involved, and that's not to take away anything or discredit anybody or you from your leadership, but sometimes it takes that outside look to look in and say, I don't think you're entirely, like, that constructive criticism. It's huge, man. And like and being able to take that and use it as a positive rather than a negative is huge.
Yeah, and I think, you hit the nail on the head there. Being able to flip that into that positive outcome. I could have easily thrown my hands up and said, this is the end of it, I'm not happy with your decision, and it would have done no one any favors. So, the end of the day, you just got to wear it on the chin.
100%.
Take it how you want to take it, but it's not always a negative interaction when you put into that kind of boat.
So would you say you're a resilient person?
I guess so.
That was good follow-up.
Definitely.
You had mentioned about letting that previous member of the team go after you kind of built that relationship with them. How do you find balancing that personal life, work life? Like, are you able to do it, or is it hard cut off? Like, I know I've worked with different people, and I've spoken with different people. Some people have hard cut off. They don't mix their personal life with business. Some people have no issues whatsoever with going to dinner with coworkers or partying with coworkers, and then the next day disciplining them. And sometimes that's received in the proper way it should be. Sometimes it isn't. Like, how do you kind of navigate that?
I think the key, and again, we work together, we're buddies outside of work, and we're buddies in work. I think it's not for everybody, and I don't think, do I think it's possible for everybody? Yes. Do I think it's for everybody? No. I think it's got to be agreed by 2 parties, and at the end of the day, I feel like I do that well, and I guess it's about reading the person and understanding I don't know, would you say the vibe? I don't know, like, what's the term you would use? Like,
yeah, I think so.
I know we can sit it here and we can talk about a podcast and our personal lives at the same time, whatever it may be, but then we could be sitting in that meeting room across from each other and it's completely business. So
I mean, I'm more or less thinking like on a leadership worker level. Like, let's just say somebody who, like, the person who decided to part their ways, or if you had to discipline somebody, are you able to separate the two? How do you separate them? Like, for me, in my own experience, I find it a little bit difficult. Like, I didn't in the past. I used to draw a hard line between work and personal life. Today, I'm more refined as a leader, and I can deal with it better. To some degree, I also don't always go socialize with workers outside of work. Like, I don't text them, ask them how their day's going on a Saturday. That's just not. Yeah. I kind of draw the line at work is work for the most part, but
I really think it's the individual.
Yeah.
And I don't mean any disrespect to this comment I'm going to make, right? If you're a manager and you're friends with someone that holds a lower title than what you are in the hierarchy of things, really, for me, it makes no difference at the end of the day if who's higher than who. I think the key is if there is a leadership person in that group and that they are mentoring also a friend on the team. I'm trying to get my verbiage right here in the way I explain it. I think that person has to respect the seniority or the authority that friend, co-worker, whatever you want to call it, brings to the table.
Correct.
And if a conversation has to be had in a meeting that on performance, good or bad, I think it needs to be welcomed with some open arms and not met with friction.
Yep.
And at that point, if a friendship can still stay strong and you can still have the conversation, then good for the party. If not, then you kind of know where you stand, I guess, at the end of the day.
No.
Definitely a tough one, but I don't think it's for everybody. I think it is a skill that you need to learn if you are looking at trying to have some friends in the workforce.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah.
We spoke about your worst day as a leader, kind of some of those tough days, tough decisions you had to make. Do you have the best day? Do you remember the best day or a day or a time that stands out in your career as one of the happier times or better times?
You could say the whole classic that it's good to see everybody grow, and as a leader, that's what you want to hear. I might go a little selfish here, but I'm going to go back to 2016 when I was kind of coming out of my yard duties into some kind of management leadership role at the time. Well, sorry. And essentially, I was invited to a sales conference. Super exciting. I'd only been at the company 5 years at the time. I think it was, if that's right, maybe math's wrong. Whatever 2016 is, I was invited to this event, not really knowing anything about it. To be there with a few hundred people, again, networking, not knowing anybody. Obviously, they all knew why I was there, but I didn't. And then to be called up on stage and receive an award. Which at the time was called the Unsung Hero Award, just for everybody out there. Did come on a sweet little glass trophy at the same time. I don't think that will ever leave my memory. To be recognised like that was fantastic, and to stand up in front of a crowd and receive that award, I think it should happen more in the workplace these days. I think recognition for those real high performing individuals that are going above and beyond, I really think it sets them up for success. And I think appreciation and acknowledgement goes one hell of a long way, regardless if it's personal or work life. I think it's a very strong feeling, or I don't know what the word is here.
Yeah, no.
Very strong passion for what they do.
Yeah, it just builds that. It's like that positive reinforcement, right?
Yeah. There's nothing worse than being in school and you got a great grade. Not like I ever got any, but for those people that got good grades, you always go, that's another A plus, whoever it was. And for those people that were always getting C's and then got a B, it was never a, hey, good for you for getting a B this time, and keep on going,
Yeah.
I think it goes a long way.
Oh, for sure. I agree. We don't do it enough. We're so quick to... I find as a culture, we're so quick to point out the negative or the quote-unquote bad thing that somebody does, and we don't do enough of that positive reinforcement. Whether it doesn't always have to be an award ceremony. It could just be a simple, you know what, you did a good job, or point a guy out in a safety meeting because he did, or a team meeting because of what he did or what she did.
Yeah, I agree, and I really hate that term. No news is good news.
Yeah, I hate it too.
No news is no news. Regardless if it's positive or negative, no news is good news. How can you be constructive? How can you grow if you don't have any news? So at the end of the day, for me, no news is a poor excuse.
100%.
That if you're feeling that, it means you're not getting what you need from up above you. And for those people out there, let's not use no news is good news. I think it's a terrible phrase, so please don't use it out there.
Our last question.
Woo!
Advice for anybody who's an up-and-comer who may want to get themselves in this leadership space. I keep saying leadership, but I also mean like a high performer. Any advice for somebody?
Got something for you. For those people that want to own their craft, I think it's very important to take those blinders off. I think it's very important to stay focused on your goal and your direction. Networking is key, guys. Networking is the way we do business. It's the way we grow. It's the way we create opportunities. So approach it with an open mind, an open heart, and be fair to your people and your team, and be fair to yourself when it comes to what you do as a craft. I think that's a really Good way to be.
One added point onto that for your networking, it also gives you the ability to bounce things off people, problems, issues, potential solutions to a problem. Having a network around you, being able just to share that weight is massive. It's been a huge part of my journey and the roles that I've had and continue to with you and some of the other management folks that we work with. We continue to bounce things off people. So
yeah, that communication there, you know, that's another one added to the list. You know, they're all your classic ways of it's the ways of life.
Yeah.
You know, at the end of the day, take work out of the equation. You know, I'm sure most of you have passions, goals, aspirations, a holiday, a project car, or whatever it is. You're not going to complete it unless you take the step forward and take those blinders off, think outside the box, and drive whatever passion or goal you have at the end of the day. I think that's the grand scheme of life, really.
That's it, man.
Throwing some wisdom at you guys. Sorry, I need to drink some water here. I'm
go
parched. That steak dinner. Whew.
I'm just going back through my notes here. I'm really not texting someone.
I should say though, guys, it's his birthday today. So, if you're out there when it gets released, birthday drops. Thanks.
Also, this morning we released episode 1. We wanted to follow that up with episode 2 right off the hop here. So, I want to keep that wheel turning, right?
Yeah. So, I hope that you guys enjoyed the first one. Definitely new for us, but we're hoping to keep some content. We got some exciting guests coming on. There's plenty coming, guys. So again, stay tuned for that stuff.
Plenty of content for sure.
It'll be great to see some of these different perspectives from some of these other individuals for sure.
100%. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to episode 2. My sort of interview, introducing you to Mark McPyke, the co-host of the show. Obviously, we're gonna have, like I said earlier, more to come. Lots more guests coming. This is only the second episode. I'm telling you, I got enough for a dozen episodes in my pocket already.
Oh, it's a full-time job already, but it's fun. I hope you guys are enjoying the content. I really hope that you learned a little bit about myself and some of the passions and some of the things I've done on my journey. Again, it is Matt's birthday today, so again, thanks for interviewing me today, Matt. It's been a pleasure, and we really look forward to sharing more topics, more questions,
information, man.
Yep.
On learnings, experiences.
Yeah, we talk about diving in the deep end. This is something that we don't really do. This is something that we're trying and really trying to take those blinders off and reach out to you guys. And don't be afraid if you got questions. I'm sure you can comment.
Hit us up. You can comment. We're on Instagram.
Apple.
Probably end up throwing the email in the description as well.
In the bio, yeah.
Yeah, you can reach us, man.
Yeah. And
All right, thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Peace.